Hi, welcome back to Ace of Pentacles. This is going to be a really short episode because this is a busy time of year for me where clients are really needing support with feedback, how to respond to feedback, how to integrate feedback. I've done an episode on feedback. This is kind of a part 2 because I started realizing I give the same kind of framework for people who are looking for support on how to respond to feedback. And this is something that has worked for me. It's worked for clients. It's worked for people that I've coached in corporate settings. Yeah. So I hope it's helpful for you. Take what you need as always and leave the rest. And if you find this helpful for you and you think that it could help someone else, feel free to share it. Okay. So this is about how to actually integrate and respond to feedback, right? So when we first get feedback, most of us tend to put it away immediately. A lot of my clients do this. I used to do this where we're just in this defensive mode and we're not actually processing the feedback. We're not reading it. We're just kind of skimming through and we already have a story in our head about usually we have a story in our head about why our manager is saying this stuff to us or whoever's giving us feedback, right? So the first thing I recommend is reading the feedback a few times. And this is really important because the first time you read something about yourself that makes you feel like you're not good enough or something's wrong with you, that can be really sensitive. And so I always recommend take a minute, sit with the feedback, read it again on a different day or during a different time, because our emotions and our moods in that moment affect what we are actually seeing and what we might not be reading, right? So read the feedback a few times, let it sit with you, and your defenses against it are kind of diminished in that way. All right. The next thing is I always recommend sitting with this question. And this is just my style. This is who I am. This is how I coach. But I always tell people, think about if this person is here to help you grow and become the best version of yourself. Why are they telling you this and why now? So basically, you're just getting curious about how is this feedback helpful? A lot of the times we become really defensive and we get feedback and we're like, well, that's not right. And they're thinking about this the wrong way. You know, we start to build a story for how we're going to protect ourselves. And it's really helpful to step out of that moment and go, okay, how is this actually helpful? Not how is this accurate? So some of us tend to go in completely the other direction where we're like, because we're already really insecure. And so we're like, oh yeah, like this must be right. They must be right about this. And some of us are like, no, none of this is true, right? And so sit with how is this helpful for you right now? If this person, and this is really hard sometimes because navigating workplace dynamics with our managers especially can be really difficult, but just try to challenge yourself and think about if this person is here to help me grow and become the best version of myself, why are they telling me this and why now? Okay, sit with that for a little while. And then here's what you actually do with it. So 1 is read the feedback a few times, ask yourself that question. 2, I want you to create 4 categories for actually taking what's in the feedback, the words that they are saying, without assigning your own interpretation and meaning to it. Create 4 categories. The first one is the stuff that you agree with and have a plan for. Or maybe you don't have a plan for it yet, but stuff that seems valid, right? The second category is the things that you have a different perspective on. So stuff that you don't agree with. So number 1 is stuff that you agree with. And number 2 is stuff that you don't really agree with. But that just means you have a different perspective on it. Okay. The third category is stuff I need more information on. This is the stuff that seems really unclear and kind of came out of nowhere. And you just need to learn a little bit more about what maybe some examples or what this actually means. So that's number 3. And then the fourth category is the positives, because all feedback, hopefully your manager is also giving you kind of what's good about the stuff that you're doing and how you're doing it right and what you're doing really well. So 4 categories: stuff you agree with, stuff you have a different perspective on, stuff that you need more information on, and the positives, the good stuff. Okay. Next, I want you to sit with that and make some notes. So for the first category, the stuff that you agree with, what's your plan to address that feedback? So your manager says something and you're like, yeah, that's fair. That's valid. Now think of like how you're going to fix it within the next 6 months, or how you're going to start to do something different within the next 6 months. Okay. Or maybe you're already working on it. So write that down. The second category, what's your perspective on this stuff. This is the stuff that you don't agree with, right? Write down what your perspective on that situation is. The third bucket is what you're not clear about. So list that stuff and then write down what is it that you're not clear about? What do you need here? Do you need more examples? Do you need specific guidance? What questions do you have, right? And then 4, this is really important. This is the positive stuff, and this is what we don't do. When someone tells us, oh, you're doing this really well, we're like, great. But everything you're doing really well at work is requiring time and energy. And maybe your manager isn't seeing that, right? So for the stuff in category 4, I want you to think about how much time and effort does it actually take for you to do this stuff? Because it takes time and effort. So you have a 40-hour work week or whatever, right? And say it takes like 7-8 hours for you to put together like emails and like, follow-ups and manage stakeholder expectations, whatever that is. And they're like, you're doing this really well. Well, that takes time and it takes effort. So write out how much time and effort it takes for you to do this stuff, because positive feedback is also feedback that you have to integrate and communicate about. Okay, so you've made your notes. Now, this is very important. Preparing for the conversation. You have to prepare for feedback conversations. Most of the miscommunication that I see happening in the workplace and in between like teams and managers and employees is no one's prepared to have the conversation that you're having. And so if this is the first time you're having this conversation, whatever you've thought about in your head is going to come out of your mouth and it's going to sound different. Okay? Because our emotions weren't present when you were thinking about it in your head. So practice what you're going to say. Now sit down with your notes and actually just practice like as if it were a script. Imagine your manager sitting right there. Practice how you're going to say this stuff. The first time you're giving or responding to feedback out loud should not be in the conversation. You should have already practiced it. Because here's what happens. Something that you've written down can seem very logical and very direct and really nice and compassionate and understanding on paper. And then the tone of your voice gives it a different meaning when you say it. So we all have different communication styles, right? And if you know that your manager and you have different communication styles, you have to practice how you're going to say this stuff, because the way that you might intend for it to come out is not how it's going to come out. Okay? So practice what you're going to say. Also, you might want to practice with a coach. I do this a lot with my clients. You might want to practice like in the mirror. Don't try not to practice with someone that also has feelings about this person, about your manager. So if you're going to get together with a colleague and be like, I'm going to say this, your colleague might be like, well, yeah, that's totally right. And it might actually be a reflection of how they're feeling about the manager too. Right? So try not to practice with like your best friend or your colleague or someone, especially if you have a difficult relationship with a manager and you've talked about it with these people. Don't practice responding to the feedback with those people. They have their own feelings about this person. Okay. So practice in a mirror and really like try to be neutral. Practice with someone who's neutral, or try really hard to be neutral and really think about how it's coming out. Right. All right. So now for the actual feedback conversation. You want to start with thanking your manager for recognizing what you're doing well and make it short. Leave it there. That's it. Thank you for recognizing all the stuff that I'm doing really well. That's it. Then go through categories 1, 2, and 3 as you've practiced them, right? So the stuff that you have a plan for. Hey, I really, I appreciate you bringing this up. I agree with it. And here's my plan for how to address it. Or I agree with it and I would love your partnership on figuring out how to address this. Okay. That's number 1. Number 2 is the stuff that you have a different perspective on. This is where your emotions can give what you're saying meaning in a way that you probably don't want. So really practice this. Hey, I noticed you said these things, and can I share my own perspective on this with you? Or, hey, thanks for bringing this to my attention. I actually have a different perspective on it if you're open to hearing that. And then let them say yes, and then tell them what your perspective on those things are. And then, hey, these are the things that I was a little bit unclear about. And so I was hoping to get a little bit more clarity or examples so that I can make sure I'm addressing this feedback. And that's number 3, right? What questions do you have? What clarity do you need on that, in that category of feedback? And then You end with recognizing again the positives, and then this time give them some insight into what you've done so well and why it takes time and energy for you to do that. How much energy and time goes into that. So I just want to say once again, thank you so much for appreciating the stuff that I'm doing well. And I'd like to just help you understand kind of what my process around those things is and how, the time and energy it takes. And so I'd love for us to keep that in perspective as we talk about all of this feedback. And then try to be humble about it. Don't be too braggy, but be fair about it. It takes me X amount of hours to do this work. And maybe then the conversation goes to, if you really want me to improve these things, go back to bucket one, right? If you really want me to improve these things and I really want to improve in this way, one of the things I'm going to need help with is handing off some of the things that I'm doing really well. Maybe I can train someone else on the team to do them so that I can dedicate more time and energy and effort to addressing the stuff in, category 1 or 2 or whatever. Okay, so I shared all this with you because I find myself having the same conversation a lot. And so if it's helpful, feel free to take it, use it. If you have more questions and need more guidance, I will drop the link to my scheduling page. You can set up a 15-minute chat, and I'm happy to help you walk through that, whatever the specific question is about this feedback. But this is actually the most common thing that people reach out to me about, using that 15-minute meet and greet. They're like, I got all this feedback, how do I respond to it? And so this is exactly the framework that I share with them. If it works for you, I'm really happy about that, and I wish you luck during feedback season. Have a good one. Bye.